My name is Hazel Dalton. I am 28 years old, and I live in a quiet suburban town. The bow on the roof of the car was massive. It was shimmering gold, almost ridiculous against the dark winter sky. Underneath it sat a brand-new, pearl-white Lexus LX. My sister, Lisa, was screaming. It wasn't a scared scream. It was the sound of pure, unfiltered joy. My mother held her phone up, recording every second for Facebook. "Look at her face," my father shouted, clapping his hands. "She deserves it. Merry Christmas, princess." They were so bright, so loud, so happy. I stood 5 feet away in the shadows of the garage door. I looked down at my own hands. I was holding my gift. It was a white ceramic mug. It felt light and cheap. On the side, printed in basic black letters, it said, "Hard work pays off." The car cost $117,000. My mug cost maybe $5. I didn't throw it. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I just ran my thumb over the chipped rim of the mug and watched them celebrate. In that moment, the cold winter air didn't bother me at all. I finally saw exactly where I stood. And I knew exactly what I had to do. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Hazel Dalton. I am 28 years old. To understand why I didn't scream when I saw that car, you have to understand my life. You have to understand how a family can have 2 daughters, but only see one of them. My sister Lisa was the main character. I was the background scenery. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It started when we were very small. It was a slow process, like water wearing down a stone. Lisa was beautiful, everyone said so. She had bright eyes and a laugh that made people stop and look. When she walked into a room, the energy changed. My parents lit up. My mother would smooth Lisa's hair. My father would pick her up and spin her around. I was just Hazel. I was quiet, I was steady, I didn't have a sparkle, I was just there. I remember a day when I was 8 years old. It was a Tuesday. I fell off the swing set at school. I landed hard on my arm. I knew right away it was bad. The pain was sharp and hot, like a fire inside my skin. The school nurse called my mother. I sat in the nurse's office for 2 hours. I watched the clock on the wall. The second hand ticked around and around. Every tick was a throb of pain in my arm. When my mother finally arrived, she wasn't worried. She was annoyed. She sighed as she signed the paperwork. "Hazel, honestly," she said as we walked to the car. "I had to leave the grocery store. Lisa has a dance recital tonight. We don't have time for this." We went to the urgent care. The doctor said my wrist was sprained, not broken. My mother let out a breath of relief. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because a cast would have been a hassle for her schedule. She bought me a brace at the pharmacy and gave me 2 ibuprofen. "You're tough," she said. "You can handle it." That night, we went to the dance recital. I sat in the hard auditorium seat, cradling my throbbing wrist against my chest. Lisa was on stage. She was wearing a pink tutu with sequins. She twirled and jumped. She missed a step, but she smiled and the audience clapped. Afterward, my father bought her a huge bouquet of flowers. "You were a star," he told her. They took her for ice cream. I sat in the back seat, nursing my wrist, eating a small cup of vanilla. No one asked how my arm felt. They were too busy talking about Lisa's pirouettes. That was the pattern. Lisa's needs were emergencies. My needs were inconveniences. When Lisa got a C on a math test, it was a crisis. My parents hired a tutor. They sat with her at the kitchen table for hours, helping her with homework. They told her she was smart, that the teacher was just too hard. When I got straight A's, they just nodded. "That's good, Hazel." That was it. No celebration, no reward. It was expected. I was the smart one. I was the capable one. I didn't need help. I learned very quickly that if I wanted attention, I wouldn't get it. But if I made myself useful, they would at least tolerate me. So I became the fixer. If the dishes were dirty, I washed them. If the dog needed to go out, I walked him. If my mother forgot to buy milk, I rode my bike to the store. I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I was good enough, they would finally look at me the way they looked at Lisa. I thought maybe if I am perfect, they will love me. I was wrong. Being perfect didn't make them love me. It just made them lazy. By the time we were teenagers, the roles were set in concrete. Lisa was the princess. She needed clothes, makeup, and rides to parties. She needed comfort when boys broke her heart. She needed money for concert tickets. I was the infrastructure. I was the road she drove on. I got a job as soon as I turned 16. I worked at a diner on the highway. I washed dishes and bussed tables. It was greasy, hot work. My feet ached every night. My hands smelled like bleach and old ketchup. I saved every dollar. I bought my own car, a rusted Honda with 200,000 miles on it. Lisa didn't work. My parents said she needed to focus on her social development. They bought her a nice used Jeep. When she crashed it 3 months later because she was texting, they were just glad she was okay. They bought her another one. I remember watching that happen. I was standing in the driveway, holding my work uniform. I looked at my rusted Honda. I looked at her new car. It's not fair, I whispered to myself, but I didn't say it out loud. I never said it out loud. I just swallowed the anger. I pushed it down deep into my stomach. I told myself that I was building character. I told myself I was independent. I didn't realize then that I was being trained. I was being trained to give everything and expect nothing. I was being groomed to be their servant. Lisa graduated high school with a 2.5 GPA. My parents threw a massive party. They rented a tent in the backyard. There was a DJ. There was a catered buffet. I graduated valedictorian. We went to Olive Garden. My dad complained that the breadsticks were cold. That was my life. I was the shadow. Lisa was the sun. And just like the sun, she burned anyone who got too close, but everyone loved the warmth too much to care. As we became adults, the dynamic didn't change. It just got more expensive. I moved out for a while, but I came back. My mother got sick, nothing fatal, just chronic fatigue and nerves. My father had high blood pressure and a bad back. They needed help. Lisa was living in the city, trying to be an influencer or a model or something that didn't pay bills. So Hazel came home. I moved into the basement suite. It was dark and smelled like damp earth, but it was mine. I paid rent to my parents. I paid market rate. They took the money every month without a thank you. I worked as a paralegal at a busy law firm downtown. It was a high-stress job. I managed schedules, drafted documents, and dealt with angry clients. I was good at it because I was used to chaos. I was used to managing difficult people. My day started at 6 o'clock a.m. I would wake up, make coffee for the house, and leave for work. I worked until 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock p.m., then I started my second shift. I would come home and the house would be a mess, dishes in the sink. Mail piled on the counter. The dog barking. My mom would be on the couch watching TV. "Oh, Hazel, you're home," she would say, not looking away from the screen. "The sink is clogged again, and we're out of bread." I would change out of my work clothes and fix the sink. I would go to the store. I would cook dinner. My father retired early. He spent his days managing his investments, which mostly meant watching the news and complaining about the economy. He never lifted a finger to help around the house. And then there was Lisa. Lisa moved back home 6 months after I did. Her career hadn't worked out. She had credit card debt. She was heartbroken because her boyfriend, a DJ named Jax, had cheated on her. She took the main guest bedroom upstairs. It had big windows and a walk-in closet. She didn't pay rent. "She's going through a hard time," my mother said. "She needs a soft place to land." I was the soft place. I paid the electric bill. I paid the water bill. I bought the groceries. My parents' pension covered the mortgage and their car payments, but everything else fell to me. I remember one specific month last year. It was November. The heating bill was huge because Lisa liked to keep the house at 75 degrees. My car needed new tires. I was tight on cash. I sat at the kitchen table with my calculator and my notebook. I was trying to figure out how to pay for everything. I had $50 left for the week for my own food and gas. Lisa walked in. She was wearing a new coat. It was a long, beige trench coat. It looked expensive. "Do you like it?" she asked, twirling around. "I got it on sale, only $200. My stomach dropped. "Lisa," I said, keeping my voice steady, "you owe me $100 for the phone bill. You said you'd pay me last week." She rolled her eyes. "God, Hazel, why are you always talking about money? You're so obsessive. I'll pay you when I get my check." Lisa worked part-time at a boutique. She spent her entire paycheck on clothes and nights out. She never paid me. "I need it now," I said. "The heating bill is due." My mother walked in. She saw the tension. She saw Lisa's pouting face. "Hazel, stop harassing your sister," Mom said. "She's happy about her coat. Let her be happy." "I'm not harassing her," I said. "I'm trying to pay the bills so we have heat." "You make good money," my dad chimed in from the living room. "Stop being stingy. Help your family." Stingy. The word felt like a slap. I was paying for their heat. I was paying for their food. I was paying for the internet they used to ignore me. And I was the stingy one. I looked down at my notebook. I closed it. Okay, I said softly. Okay. I transferred money from my meager savings account to cover the bills. I ate ramen noodles for lunch every day that week. Lisa wore her new coat to a party and spilled wine on it. She asked me to take it to the dry cleaners for her. I did. I did it because I was trapped. I was trapped in the role of the responsible one. If I stopped, the house would fall apart. If I stopped, they would suffer. And despite everything, I loved them. Or maybe I was just addicted to the hope that one day they would say thank you. I was the engine of the family. I kept us moving forward. But no one ever thanks the engine. They only care about the paint on the hood. Lisa was the paint. I was the grease and the gears, grinding away in the dark. The turning point didn't happen with a bang. It happened with a quiet conversation on a Tuesday night in October, 2 months before Christmas. I needed help. For the first time in years, I really needed help. I had a dental emergency. A molar had cracked. The pain was blinding. I needed a crown, and my insurance only covered half. I was short $1,500. I had drained my savings fixing the furnace 2 weeks prior. I literally had $0 in my emergency fund. I cooked a roast chicken for dinner. It was my father's favorite. I made mashed potatoes and green beans. I waited until everyone was full and relaxed. Lisa was out with friends. It was just me and my parents. Dad, I started. I felt nervous. I hated asking for money. It made me feel small. I have a problem with my tooth. I need to get it fixed tomorrow. It hurts a lot. He picked his teeth with a toothpick. Yeah, dentists are expensive. I know, I said. I need a crown. It's going to cost $1,500 out of pocket. I don't have it right now because I paid for the furnace repair. I waited. I looked at him. I looked at my mom. My mom sighed. She started clearing the table. Well, Hazel, we don't really have extra cash right now. I know things are tight, I said, but you just went on that weekend trip to the casino, and you bought the new TV. That's our money, my dad said sharply. We're retired. We worked hard for our money. I work hard too, I said. My voice trembled a little. I spend almost all my money on this house. I just need a loan. I'll pay you back. My dad looked me in the eye. He didn't look angry. He looked matter-of-fact. He looked calm. Look, Hazel, he said. You're the strong one. You always figure it out. You're resourceful. I'm in pain, Dad. Take some Tylenol, he said. You can wait a month and save up. I felt tears prick my eyes. But last week you gave Lisa $2,000 to pay off her credit card, she told me. The room went silent. My mother froze with a plate in her hand. My dad put the toothpick down. That's different, he said. How? I asked. How is it different? I'm in physical pain. She bought clothes and drinks. My father leaned forward. He spoke slowly, as if he were explaining something to a child. Hazel, listen to me. You are dependable. You are solid. You can handle the world. You don't need as much help. He gestured vaguely toward the door where Lisa usually came in. Lisa is fragile. She's not like you. The world is harder for her. She feels things more deeply. She needs more support. She needs more cushion. You can survive on the hard ground. She can't. I sat there, frozen. You don't need as much. It wasn't that they didn't see my effort. They saw it perfectly. They relied on it. They were punishing me for my strength. Because I was capable, I deserved nothing. Because Lisa was irresponsible, she deserved everything. My competence was my curse. So because I'm responsible, I have to suffer, I asked quietly. Don't be dramatic, Mom said. Nobody is suffering. You'll figure it out. You always do. She walked into the kitchen to wash the dishes. My dad turned the TV back on. I sat at the table for a long time. The roast chicken sat heavily in my stomach. The pain in my tooth throbbed with every heartbeat. That was the moment the illusion broke. I had always thought that if I worked hard, I would earn their love. But my father had just told me the truth. My hard work didn't buy love. It bought them freedom. It bought them the freedom to spoil Lisa while I paid the price. They didn't love me for who I was. They loved me for what I did for them. I was a utility. I was like the electricity or the running water. You don't thank the water for flowing. You only notice it when it stops. I went to my room. I didn't cry. I took 4 ibuprofen and lay in the dark. You don't need as much. The words echoed in my head. Okay, I thought. If I don't need as much, then I won't give as much. I didn't stop paying the bills that day. I didn't move out that day. I wasn't ready yet. I needed a plan. I needed to see how far they would go. I decided to wait until Christmas. I wanted to see one final holiday. I wanted to see if there was any limit to their favoritism. I got a second job delivering food on the weekends. I saved every penny. I paid for my tooth with a high-interest credit card. I didn't complain. I didn't speak. I just watched. I watched them plan Christmas. Christmas morning came with a heavy gray sky. I had been up since 5 o'clock a.m. I made the cinnamon rolls. I made the coffee. I set the table with the special holiday cloth. The house smelled like sugar and pine. Lisa came down at 10 o'clock a.m. wearing silk pajamas. She looked sleepy and beautiful. "Merry Christmas," she yawned. She grabbed a cinnamon roll without saying thank you. My parents were already sitting by the tree. The living room was filled with gifts. Most of them were wrapped in shiny gold paper, Lisa's color. A few were in plain red paper, mine. We opened the small gifts first. I gave my mom a spa gift card worth $200. I gave my dad a new set of high-end grilling tools. I gave Lisa a cashmere scarf. They opened them. "Nice," my dad said. "Thanks, honey," my mom said. Lisa put the scarf on and looked in the mirror. "It's a little scratchy, but it's cute." Then they gave me my gifts. I opened a package of socks, a calendar, a generic box of chocolates. Then came the big moment. My dad stood up. He was vibrating with excitement. He winked at my mom. "Okay," he announced. "We have one more surprise, but we have to go outside for this one." "Outside," Lisa squealed. "Is it a puppy?" "Better," my dad said. He grabbed Lisa's hand. Mom grabbed her other hand. They practically dragged her to the front door. "Come on, Hazel," Mom called over her shoulder. "Bring the camera." I grabbed my phone and followed them. I put on my coat and stepped out into the biting cold air. We walked to the driveway. And there it was. The Lexus LX 600. It was massive. It was pearl white. The chrome grille shone even under the cloudy sky. And on top, tied to the roof rails, was a gold bow the size of a beach ball. I knew how much this car cost. I worked in a law firm. I knew the value of assets. This was a six-figure vehicle. This was more money than I made in 2 years. Lisa stopped. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," she screamed. "Oh my God, is that mine, Daddy, Mommy, is that mine?" "It's yours, baby girl," Dad shouted. "Merry Christmas." Lisa ran to the car. She hugged the hood. She jumped up and down. She was crying happy tears. "I can't believe it, it's beautiful. It's the one I wanted," my mom was beaming. "We wanted you to have something safe and reliable. You deserve the best." I stood by the garage door. The wind bit at my face. I felt numb. "You deserve the best." Lisa, who had never paid a bill in her life. Lisa, who crashed cars and quit jobs. Lisa, the fragile one. My dad looked over at me. He seemed to suddenly remember I was there. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. It wasn't wrapped. "Here, Hazel," he said, tossing it to me. "Didn't forget you." I caught it. It was a white cardboard box. I opened it. Inside was a mug. A white ceramic mug. I pulled it out. It felt light, cheap. On the side in block letters, "Hard work pays off." I stared at it. A Lexus for her. A mug for me. The symbolism was so perfect it felt scripted. It was a joke. It had to be a joke. I looked up at my father. He wasn't laughing. He was smiling that benevolent, clueless smile. "Thought that would fit you," he said, "since you're always working so hard." "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Thanks." Lisa was inside the car now, honking the horn. My parents were laughing, taking pictures of her through the window. They didn't see me. They never saw me. "Hazel, come take a picture of us with the car," Mom yelled. I walked over. I held up my phone. I framed the shot. My parents leaning in the window kissing Lisa's cheeks. The happy family, click. One more, click. "Okay, let's go inside. It's freezing," Mom said. We went back inside. The mood was electric. Lisa couldn't stop talking about the heated seats, the sunroof, the sound system. We sat down for the Christmas dinner I had cooked. The roast beef, the potatoes, the gravy. I sat at my usual spot. My new mug was on the table next to my plate. Lisa was texting all her friends, sending pictures of the car. "Everyone is so jealous," she laughed. "Jax is going to die when he sees me in this." My mom looked at me. She noticed I wasn't eating. She noticed I wasn't smiling. Her face hardened slightly. She leaned across the table. "Hazel," she whispered harshly, "fix your face." "What?" I asked. "You look miserable. Don't be jealous of your sister." "It's ugly." "I'm not jealous," I said, and I realized I wasn't. I wasn't jealous. I was done. "Then smile," she hissed. "Don't ruin this for her. This is a happy day." "Don't ruin this." That was the final command. I looked at the mug. Hard work pays off. I looked at my mother. I looked at my father who was pouring wine for Lisa. I looked at Lisa, who was glowing with the entitlement of a princess who had never known a day of struggle. "You're right," I said calmly. "I won't ruin it." I picked up my fork and took a bite of the potatoes I had peeled. I ate my dinner. I smiled when they looked at me. I cleared the table when we were done. I washed the dishes. I dried them and put them away. My heart was beating slow and steady. The hurt was gone. The anger was gone. In their place was something cold and hard and very, very clear. They thought I was the foundation of this house. They thought I was permanent. They thought they could pile all their weight on me and I would never break. But they forgot one thing about infrastructure. If you don't maintain it, if you abuse it, eventually it collapses. Or, if it's smart, it disconnects. I waited until they went to bed. I waited until the house was silent. Then, I went to my room. I didn't pack clothes. I didn't pack keepsakes. I took my wallet. I took my laptop. I took the folder of documents I had been secretly gathering for 2 months. I walked to the dining table. I had 3 envelopes ready in my pocket. I placed them on the smooth wood surface. One for Mom, one for Dad, one for Lisa. I didn't write a long emotional letter. I didn't explain my feelings. I just left the facts. I put the key to the house on top of the envelopes. I walked to the front door. I put my boots on. I opened the door. The Lexus was sitting in the driveway, the gold bow still shining under the streetlights. It looked like a monster. I walked past it to my rusted Honda. I got in. The engine sputtered, then started. I backed out of the driveway. I didn't look back at the house. I drove into the darkness. I was homeless. I was alone. But for the first time in my life, I was free. I checked the clock on the dashboard. It was midnight. Christmas was over. My new life had just begun. I drove for 2 hours. I didn't have a destination. I just needed distance. The heater in my rusted Honda rattled, blowing lukewarm air against my frozen hands. The roads were empty. It was Christmas night, and the world was asleep. I passed houses with flashing lights and inflatable Santa Clauses on their lawns. They looked like scenes from a movie I wasn't allowed to be in. For the first hour, I felt sick. My stomach was in knots. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see the blinding headlights of the Lexus chasing me. I expected my father's angry face or my mother's disappointed frown to appear in the glass. But the road behind me was dark. Around 2:00 a.m., I pulled into a motel off the interstate. It was a cheap place. The sign buzzed with a broken neon letter. The parking lot was full of semi-trucks. I went to the front desk. The night clerk was a young guy with headphones around his neck. He didn't look at me like I was a disappointment. He didn't look at me like I was infrastructure. He just looked at me like a customer. "One night?" he asked. "A week," I said. "Please." I paid with my own credit card. The one nobody else had access to. I walked into the room. It smelled like industrial cleaner and old carpet. The bedspread was a faded floral pattern. The carpet was sticky. It was the most beautiful room I had ever seen. I sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't unpack because I didn't have anything to unpack. I had my laptop, my phone, my wallet, and the clothes on my back. I opened my laptop. It was time to finalize what I had started on the dining room table. I thought about the envelopes I had left behind. I pictured them sitting on the dark wood of the table, waiting for the sun to rise. The first envelope was for my father. Inside, I had left a spreadsheet. My father loved to talk about money, but he didn't actually manage it. I did. For the last 5 years, I had been balancing their accounts. The spreadsheet showed the truth. It showed that their pension didn't cover their lifestyle. It showed that the rent I paid for the basement wasn't just extra pocket money, it was the mortgage payment. It was the property tax. I had written a simple note on top. "I am no longer the bank. The mortgage is due on the 1st. Good luck." The second envelope was for my mother. It contained a list of logistics. It was 5 pages long. It listed the passwords for the utility accounts. It listed the schedule for the dog's heartworm medication. It listed the number for the plumber, the gutter cleaner, and the pharmacy. It was a manual for running their own lives. A manual they hadn't needed to read in a decade because I did it all. My note to her was short. "I am resigning from the position of household manager. Effective immediately." The third envelope was for Lisa. This was the most important one. Lisa thought she had good credit. She thought the banks loved her. She didn't know that 3 years ago, when she maxed out her first credit card, I didn't just fix it. I took over the payments. I had been paying the minimum balance on her secret debt every month for 36 months. I transferred the access of that account back to her email address. I removed my bank account from the autopay. My note to her said, "The debt is yours." The payments are $400 a month. Don't be late. I sat in the motel room and clicked enter on my banking website. I removed my name from the joint electric bill. I removed my name from the family cell phone plan. I canceled the secondary credit card my mother carried for emergencies, which she mostly used for breathless trips to TJ Maxx. With every click, I felt a physical weight lift off my chest. It was like taking off a heavy backpack I had been wearing since I was 10 years old. I was severing the arteries. I was stopping the flow of blood. I lay down on the stiff motel pillows. I stared at the ceiling. I thought I would cry. I thought I would feel guilty. I waited for the guilt to come. I waited for the voice in my head that usually said, "You are being selfish. You are hurting them." But the voice didn't come. Instead, I thought about the mug. Hard work pays off. They were right. Hard work did pay off. I had worked hard to save myself, and now I was being paid with silence. I fell asleep in my clothes. I slept for 10 hours. It was the first time in years I didn't wake up worrying about someone else's breakfast. I woke up at 11 o'clock am. The sunlight was slicing through the gap in the heavy curtains. I reached for my phone. The screen was full. It was a wall of notifications. 47 missed calls. 82 text messages. I didn't panic. I felt a strange, scientific curiosity. I wanted to see the data. I wanted to see the timeline of their realization. I scrolled to the bottom to the first messages. 7:12 a.m. Mom, Hazel, where are you? The coffee maker isn't set. 7:15 a.m. Mom, did you go to the store? We need milk. 7:30 a.m. Dad. Hazel, stop playing games. Come home. We want to take the Lexus for a spin. 7:45 a.m. Mom, Hazel, answer your phone. Then a gap. This was the moment they found the envelopes. 8:10 a.m. Dad, what is this? What is this letter? 8:12 a.m. Dad, pick up the phone. Now. 8:15 a.m. Lisa, Hazel, WTF. My credit card company just emailed me saying a payment is overdue. I thought you handled that. 8:20 a.m. Mom, you are being very cruel. It is Christmas. Come home and fix this. 8:30 a.m. Dad, you ungrateful brat. After everything we did for you. I scrolled past the insults. I scrolled past the threats. Then the panic started to set in. The reality was hitting them. 9:15 a.m. Lisa. Hazel, seriously, the Lexus payment is due in 2 weeks. Dad said he can't cover it because the mortgage is coming out. You said you'd help me with insurance. I can't afford $300 a month for insurance. 9:45 a.m. Mom, the internet is off. The TV isn't working. Dad is screaming, please Hazel, just tell us the password. 10:30 a.m. Lisa, I hate you. I literally hate you. You ruined my Christmas. I put the phone down on the bedside table. You ruined my Christmas. I hadn't ruined anything. I had just removed myself. If my absence ruined their lives, then their lives were built on my back. I got up and took a shower. The water was hot and had good pressure. I used the tiny bar of soap that smelled like nothing. I scrubbed the smell of the roast beef and the pine needles off my skin. I got dressed and went to the motel lobby for the free continental breakfast. I ate a bagel with cream cheese and drank weak coffee from a styrofoam cup. It tasted better than the Christmas dinner. It tasted like dignity. I knew I had to be smart. They would come for me. They knew where I worked. They knew my friends, not that I had many, because I was always too busy working for them. I needed a permanent place. I couldn't stay in a motel forever. I spent the day on my laptop searching for apartments. I looked for the smallest, cheapest studios I could find. I didn't need space. I didn't need a guest room. I needed a fortress. I found a place in a boring, gray building on the other side of the city. It was a 4th-floor walk-up. No elevator, no doorman, just a key and a deadbolt. I called the landlord. He met me there at 2:00 p.m. The apartment was empty. The walls were white. The floor was cheap laminate. There was a single window that looked out over an alleyway. It's $900 a month, the landlord said. He was an older man with kind eyes. First and last required. I wrote him a check right there. I'll take it, I said. Can I move in today? He looked at my lack of boxes. Traveling light, starting over, I said. By 5:00 p.m., I was sitting on the floor of my new apartment. I went to a thrift store and bought a mattress, a lamp, and a folding chair. That was all I had. I sat on the mattress and looked at my phone again. The messages were still coming. Lisa, Mom is crying. She can't stop crying. Are you happy? Dad, I'm calling the police. I'm reporting the car stolen. I replied to that one. It was the only text I sent. Me, the Honda is in my name. I bought it with my money. I have the title. Do not contact me again. I blocked his number. Then I blocked Mom. Then I blocked Lisa. The silence that followed was absolute. But silence isn't empty, it's heavy. I sat there in the fading light, and for the first time I let myself feel the hurt. I didn't cry because I missed them. I cried because I realized they didn't miss me. They missed the cook. They missed the maid. They missed the banker. They missed the punching bag. They were panicking because the services had stopped. Not one text said, "We love you." Not one text said, "Are you okay?" Not one text said, "I'm sorry we hurt you." It was all about the money. It was all about the inconvenience. My father was worried about the mortgage. My mother was worried about the internet. Lisa was worried about the car. I was just the tool that had broken. When your vacuum cleaner breaks, you don't cry for the vacuum cleaner. You get angry that the floor is dirty. That realization hardened me. It turned my sadness into steel. I wiped my eyes. I stood up. I walked to the kitchen, which was just a stove and a sink. I filled a glass with tap water and drank it. I was done being a vacuum cleaner. I was a person, and I was going to live like one. 3 days later, they found me. I shouldn't have been surprised. I hadn't left the state. I still had my job at the law firm. I had gone into work on Monday morning as usual. I was professional. I was calm. I told the receptionist that if anyone from my family called, she was to tell them I was in a meeting. But I couldn't stop them from showing up at my apartment. I don't know how they got the address. Maybe they followed me from work. Maybe they called around to the few acquaintances I had. It was Wednesday evening. I had just come home. I was boiling pasta for dinner. I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. I was listening to a podcast. I felt peaceful. Then the pounding started. It wasn't a knock. It was a fist hammering against the wood. "Hazel, open this door, we know you're in there." It was my father's voice. It was the voice he used when the dog peed on the carpet. A voice of absolute authority and rage. My heart hammered against my ribs. My old instinct, the instinct to appease, to fix, to smooth things over, flared up. "Open the door, apologize, make it stop." I took a deep breath. I turned off the stove. I walked to the door. I didn't open it. I looked through the peephole. They were all there. My father, red-faced and puffing. My mother, looking frantic and disheveled. Lisa, looking like a tragic victim in her designer coat. "Open the door, Hazel," my mother screamed. "I know you can hear us." I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. I stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. I didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice was low and steady. "What do we want?" My father pushed forward, trying to intimidate me. "We want you to stop this insanity. You're coming home, now." "No," I said. "You are tearing this family apart," my mother shouted. She was crying, but it felt performative. "How can you do this to us, after everything we've done for you?" "What have you done for me?" I asked. "Besides taking my money and making me feel small." "We gave you a home," my dad yelled. "We put a roof over your head." "I paid for that roof," I said. "I paid the mortgage for the last 5 years. You know that, you saw the spreadsheet." "That was your contribution," he spat. "That's what family does." "And what was Lisa's contribution?" I looked at my sister. Lisa stepped forward. Her eyes were swollen. "This isn't about me, Hazel. This is about you abandoning us. The repo guys are calling about the Lexus. Dad says we might lose the house. You have to help us." "I don't have to do anything," I said. "You're selfish," Lisa hissed. "You're just jealous because I got a car and you didn't. You're being a baby." I laughed. It was a dry, short sound. "Lisa," I said, "I'm not jealous of the car. I'm sorry for you. You have a $117,000 car and you can't even pay for the gas. You're not an owner. You're a liability." "Don't talk to your sister like that." Mom stepped in. "She is fragile." "She's 26, I snapped. The anger finally broke through my calm. "She is a grown woman. She is not fragile. She is spoiled. And you made her this way." I looked at my parents. "I am done," I said. "I am done paying for her life. I am done paying for your retirement. I am done being the one who cleans up the mess." "You can't just leave," my dad said. His voice dropped, becoming threatening. "If you don't come home and fix the accounts, you are dead to us." It was an ultimatum. He thought it would break me. He thought the fear of losing them would make me fold. I looked at them. Really looked at them. I saw a father who was lazy and entitled. I saw a mother who was manipulative and cold. I saw a sister who was a permanent child. They weren't my family. They were my parasites. "Okay," I said. My dad blinked. "What? Okay," I repeated. "If that's the choice, come back and be your servant or be dead to you, then I choose to be dead to you." The hallway went silent. They hadn't expected that. They had no script for this. "Get out of my building," I said, "or I will call the police, and I will show them the financial records of how you've been extorting me for rent that wasn't declared on your taxes." My father's face went pale. He knew I would do it. He knew I kept records of everything. "You're a monster," my mother whispered. "No," I said, "I'm just the one who woke up." I stepped back and slammed the door. I threw the deadbolt. I heard them screaming on the other side. I heard Lisa sobbing. I heard my father kicking the door frame. I walked back to the stove. I turned the burner back on. I watched the water start to boil again. I was shaking. My hands were trembling so hard I had to grip the counter. But I didn't open the door. I cooked my pasta. I put jarred sauce on it. I sat on my mattress and ate it. They stayed in the hallway for 20 minutes. Eventually, the screaming stopped. I heard their footsteps fading down the stairs. They were gone. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them. I had looked the beast in the eye and said no, and the beast had walked away. I finished my dinner. I washed my plate. I went to bed. I knew the war wasn't over. But the battle was won. I had defended my fortress. The collapse didn't happen all at once. It wasn't an explosion. It was a slow leak. It was the sound of air hissing out of a tire until the rim hit the pavement. For the first month, I lived in a strange kind of quiet. I went to work. I came home. I paid my bills. I bought groceries. It sounds boring, but to me it was thrilling. I had money in my bank account at the end of the week. I didn't have to check my balance before buying a latte. I didn't have to dread the sound of my phone ringing. But even though I had blocked them, I couldn't block the world. We lived in a medium-sized town. People talked. The first crack in their facade appeared 2 weeks after the confrontation. I was at the grocery store, standing in the pasta aisle, deciding between penne and fusilli. I ran into Mrs. Gable, our next-door neighbor from my childhood home. She was a nice woman, but she loved gossip. "Hazel," she gasped, clutching her purse. "Oh, honey, I haven't seen you in weeks. Is it true?" "Is what true?" I asked, keeping my face neutral. "That you moved out. Your mother told me you abandoned them. She said you're having a mental breakdown." I almost laughed. Of course, that was the narrative. I wasn't the victim, I was the crazy one. I was the unstable daughter who ran away. "I'm fine, Mrs. Gable," I said calmly. "I just got my own place. I'm doing really well." She looked at me closely. She saw my clean clothes, my calm eyes, my steady hands. She didn't see a breakdown. "Well," she whispered, leaning in. "Things are different over there. The lawn is a mess. The garbage cans were left out for 3 days last week, and I saw a tow truck in the driveway yesterday." My heart gave a little jump. "A tow truck?" "Yes, it was taking that big white car away. The one with the bow. There was a man with a clipboard and your father was shouting at him. It was quite a scene." I nodded. "I see. It's a shame," she said. "Lisa loved that car." "Cars are expensive," I said simply. "It was nice seeing you, Mrs. Gable." I walked away. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt verified. The math had worked. Without my income covering the hidden debts, the Lexus payment had bounced. And the repo man didn't care about gold bows or Facebook likes. He just wanted the asset. The Lexus was gone. A month later, the second pillar fell. I received a letter at my work address. It was from a collection agency, looking for Lisa. They had my work address on file because I had co-signed a loan for her 4 years ago. A small student loan she supposedly used for books, which I later found out she used for a spring break trip. I called the agency. "I am not responsible for this debt," I told the agent. "I was removed from the account 3 years ago when the loan was consolidated. Check your records." They checked. I was right. I had been smart enough to get my name off that specific paper. "We apologize," the agent said. "We can't get a hold of her. Do you have a current number?" "I don't," I said, and I hung up. Lisa was drowning. Without me to pay the minimums, her credit score was tanking. The illusion of her influencer lifestyle was hitting the hard wall of compound interest. I looked her up on social media using a burner account I made just to check. Her Instagram used to be full of brunches, shopping bags, and selfies in the Lexus. Now it was quiet. She hadn't posted in 3 weeks. The last post was a vague, sad quote about fake family and betrayal. The comments were turned off. The final blow came in March. I was driving past my old neighborhood. I didn't need to go there, but I felt a pull. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I turned onto the street. The houses were all neat and tidy. And then I saw it. There was a sign in the front yard, "For sale," and not just for sale. It had a price-reduced sticker slapped across the top. The grass was overgrown. The blinds were drawn. The house looked tired. It looked like a place where happiness had packed its bags and left. I pulled over and idled the car for a moment. That house had been my prison. It was where I learned to be invisible. It was where I learned to serve. My parents couldn't afford the mortgage without my rent. They couldn't afford the property taxes. They were downsizing. They were probably moving to a condo or a rental. They were losing the stage where they had performed their perfect family play for so many years. I thought I would feel guilty. I waited for the pang of regret. But I looked at the house and I realized, they did this. They built a life they couldn't afford on the back of a daughter they didn't appreciate. When the foundation walked away, the house sank. That is just gravity. You cannot be mad at gravity. I put my car in drive and kept moving. 2 weeks later, I saw Lisa. I was at the mall buying a new pair of work shoes. I was walking past a kiosk that sold cheap phone cases and sunglasses. There she was. She was wearing a uniform, a bright blue polo shirt that was too big for her. She was standing behind the counter, looking at her phone. She looked tired. Her hair wasn't perfectly blown out. Her nails weren't done. She looked normal. She looked like everyone else. A customer walked up to the kiosk. He was an older man looking for a charger. "Do you have this in USB-C?" he asked. Lisa put her phone down. She sighed. "I don't know, look on the rack." "Can you help me?" the man asked. "I'm on my break in like 5 minutes," Lisa snapped. I watched from behind a mannequin. She was still Lisa. She was still entitled. But the world was teaching her a lesson I never could. The world was teaching her that if you don't work, you don't eat. She had lost the Lexus. She had lost the free rent. She had lost the buffer. Now she was just a girl selling phone chargers for minimum wage. I didn't go over to her. I didn't say hello. I didn't want to gloat. Seeing her like that didn't make me feel victorious. It made me feel relieved. She was surviving. She was working. It was the best thing that could have happened to her. I had stopped crippling her with my help. I walked out of the mall. The sun was shining. I got into my rusted Honda. It wasn't a Lexus, but it was paid for. It was mine, and it started every time I turned the key. A full year passed. It was Christmas Eve again. The weather was exactly the same as the night I left, cold, gray, and biting, but everything else was different. I was in my apartment. I had painted the walls a soft sage green. I had bought a rug. I had a bookshelf filled with books I actually wanted to read, not legal briefs or family financial records. The apartment smelled like rosemary and garlic. I was roasting a chicken just for me. I had a small tree in the corner. It was only 3 feet tall. It had white lights and simple wooden ornaments. Underneath it, there were no piles of gold-wrapped gifts. There was just one box. It was a high-quality blender I had bought for myself because I wanted to make smoothies. I poured myself a glass of wine. I walked over to my cabinet and opened it. There, sitting on the shelf, was the mug. Hard work pays off. I hadn't thrown it away. I used it every morning for my coffee. At first, I kept it as a reminder of my anger. I used it to fuel my hustle. But over the last year, the meaning had changed. The mug was right. Hard work did pay off. But only if you were working for the right people. Only if you were working for yourself. When I worked for them, my hard work paid for their luxury. It paid for their delusions. Now my hard work paid for my peace. It paid for this quiet room. It paid for the silence in my head. I took the mug down and held it. It was still cheap ceramic. It was still crooked. But it was my trophy. It was the catalyst that saved my life. My phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up. It was a text from an unknown number. I knew who it was. "Unknown, Merry Christmas, Hazel, we miss you. Mom made the roast. It's not the same without you. We are in a rental now on Elm Street. Please come by, just for a drink. We can start over." It was my father. I stared at the screen. "It's not the same without you." Translation: the roast is dry. The house is messy. We are lonely. We are broke. We can start over. Translation: come back and fix us again. I felt a ghost of the old guilt. It brushed against my skin like a cold draft. I thought about them sitting in a smaller, shabbier living room. I thought about Lisa without her car. I thought about my mother trying to cook a roast and failing. I felt pity for them. They were tragic figures, really. They were people who refused to grow up. But I didn't feel an obligation. That cord had been cut. I didn't reply. I didn't block the number. I just deleted the message. I didn't need to block them anymore because they couldn't reach me. Even if they stood in this room, they couldn't reach me. I was miles above them, on a high ground they couldn't climb because they refused to do the work. I put the phone down and turned back to my stove. I took the chicken out of the oven. It was perfect. Golden brown and crispy. I sat at my small round table. I lit a candle. I thought about the word fairness. Growing up, I was obsessed with fairness. I always thought, it's not fair that Lisa gets everything. It's not fair that I have to do all the work. I spent years waiting for the scales to balance. I waited for my parents to wake up and make it fair. I waited for the universe to step in. But I realized now that fairness isn't something that is given to you. Fairness is something you take. You have to draw the line. You have to say, this is what I am worth. And if the people around you can't pay that price, you walk away. My life wasn't fair when I was trying to carry them. It was heavy. It was impossible. But tonight, in this quiet room with my own food and my own money and my own future, tonight everything was exactly right. I took a sip of my wine. I looked at the little tree. I smiled. I wasn't lonely. I was whole. I had stopped waiting for an apology I would never get. I had stopped trying to buy love that wasn't for sale. I had learned the most important lesson of all. Life finally became fair the moment I stopped carrying everyone else's unfair share.